What is happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel and to another video. Guys, today I want to go over some summertime finesse techniques that you guys can use out on your ponds, in your creek system to help you catch more bass when they are not biting in this god-awful summer heat. But before we hop into it, guys, I want to remind you that we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Now, we are so close, guys. We're like, I think 150 subs off. I know we can do it, guys, and of course with your help we can hit that goal a lot faster. So the more you guys like the videos, the more you share the content, the more people get to see JuNa TV fishing videos on YouTube. So make sure you guys do that. But if you are new here and you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button for me, guys, down below. Turn that notification bell on as well, so you know when I upload any brand new videos. You don't want to miss them, right? And of course, if you've been loving the content and you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like on it for me. And as always, you know what I'm going to say. Flood that comment section down below. Now, when I say that, guys, when I say to flood that comment section down below with ideas and suggestions, I really mean it, because today's video, guys, was actually a requested video by a subscriber who did want me to kind of go over some tips and tricks on throwing a Ned Rig and throwing a Shaky Head. So I decided to take this opportunity not to only go over those two techniques, but go over a few more of my favorite techniques that I do like to throw in the summertime when I have to slow that presentation and get more finesse out there to help my hookup ratio and catching bass. Because you guys know, in the heat, these bass do like to get lethargic and they don't want to go out and chase, they don't want to go out and bite. So when you're out breaking a pond down and you're throwing moving baits, you're not hitting anything, you start going to your slower baits and they're still not hitting it. So you want to change up the presentation, go a little bit smaller and throw a little finesse. So what I'm going to go over today, guys, is some of my favorite techniques that I like to use in the summer that work in my ponds and creek systems, and hopefully it's informational enough for you guys. You can go out and use those same techniques and hopefully catch some fish. And not only that, I will also take the time to go over my combos that I use for my finesse setups, as well as far as what I like to throw them on, bait caster spin combo, what's easier, the type of line, the pound test that I like to use. I'll go over all that stuff with you guys today, but let's start out with the first technique. Alright, so the first technique I want to go over with you guys is going to be the Shaky Head. Now, this is a very versatile technique to use, especially in the summer, and what I really like about it that makes it unique is that you can actually make it weedless. If you check out right here, you can see that that hook right there is exposed. And what I like about that is if you have vegetation in the bottom of your pond, you have bedrock, you have like fallen trees, stumps, any wood, stuff like that that may fall even into your creek systems, this is something that you want to have. This is something you have to have in your tackle box. Now, if you're someone that's not familiar with the Shaky Head technique, let me kind of get you familiarized with what the terminal tackle looks like. So you're going to have a hook, right, that's connected to a little weighted ball at the end there, and on top of that you're going to have a little screw lock which your lure actually screw onto, and then you just go and expose that hook. Typically, people love to put Cinco style baits on it, like a lunker log or some, you know, finesse worms like a Slim Shake on there. But me personally, and again, this is just my opinion, I love to use creature style baits, just because you have more appendages, stuff that kind of gets, you know, the fish's attention a little bit more than just a worm. But it's your preference. Whatever you like to use, you can use it. I'll show you what I'm going to be using on mine. Now, for the purpose of today's video, I will be fishing with a Googan Squad Bandito Bug and a Googan Squad Trench Hog, both in the junior sizes, and paired up with a 1/4 ounce Wu Tungsten Shaky Head. And of course, the main reason why I'm going to the junior sizes is because I love to downsize that presentation, which is going to help you guys out in your ponds and creeks. When you're throwing everything you can, including the kitchen sink at these fish, and they're not biting, you're throwing your moving baits, your Texas rigs, your worms, your weightless stuff, and they're not doing it, it's okay to downsize. It's okay to make that presentation a lot smaller, because you want the fish to have something easy to bite. So when they're lethargic, they don't want to work for their food. If you can run something small right next to them, they can just slurp right up. They don't have to fight or chase it. That's what's going to get those fish to bite. But now that we've downsized our presentation for the bass, one key element into finesse fishing as well is to fish these lures a lot slower, right? Fish them slower than you normally would. So I'm going to give you a little example. It's going to be kind of bad. Pretend this is the fish, right? This is the fish, that's the mouth. Here's your lure. The fish are going to sit there. They're at the bottom. They don't want to move around. They're lazy right now. It's hot. They don't want to be doing stuff. But if they're going to eat, they want to eat something easy. So it's sitting here, right? If you're working this normal, right? You're hopping it, or you're just dragging it, it's just going to go by that fish. They're going to look at it and be like, ah, I don't care. But here's the fish. You start working it a lot slower, right? You bounce it, do that, and you let it sit. That's one of the things I love doing, is I love to let my lure sit. Probably around 5 seconds. and then I kind of move it a little bit. So you're just going to have it like that, pop, pop, pop. 5 seconds goes by, pop, pop, pop. The fish is going to be right there. You could run 6 different things in front of that fish, but if you don't downsize that presentation, you don't slow it down, they're not going to want it, because all they're going to do is just open their mouth. It's going to just go in, and boom, you can catch them. But if you keep running stuff too fast, you keep running, you know, bigger baits, stuff like that, they're not going to want to chase. So remember, when it comes to finesse fishing, downsize your presentation and work it a lot slower. Alright, so moving on to the next technique, guys, we're now going to be talking about the Ned Rig. Now, the Ned Rig is a staple when it comes to finesse fishing. These things are very deadly and dangerous. Don't underestimate them. Just because they're very small doesn't mean you can't pull some fish out of your waters, because I have seen some people pull monsters out of their waterways and their creek systems just fishing something so small and so simple. Now, in this video, I will be fishing with a Googan Squad Rattling Ned with a 1/4 ounce Woo Tungsten Ned head, okay? This is what I like to use. Thing about the Ned is that it's got the rattle in it, alright, so it does create a little bit of noise for the fish, but it also floats. It's very buoyant, so you will see the Ned head, you know, stand up underwater just like that. And that's what makes it an awesome bait to use, and you can get some that actually help stand up, you know, that lean back like this. But again, you want to work that very slow. So you want to bounce it a little bit. You know, you can work it over some structure. You can drag it. But again, be very cautious. Be very mindful that if you do have any structure or anything like that down at the bottom, rocks, vegetation, that it is very possible you get stuck. This is not my favorite one to use as far as techniques go, but nonetheless, I love it, and I have pulled up some good fish from it. Alright, so moving on to the next technique, guys, which happens to be one of my favorites, is going to be the finesse jig. That is right. I love me a finesse jig. Now, in today's video, we will be fishing with the Googan Squad Lil Juicy Jig with a rattling chunk on there. Can you guys hear that? Oh man, this is a hammer in the water, guys. I love it. And again, I love fishing with jigs, but when it comes to the finesse side of it, you want to downsize that presentation, just like I told you. You want to work it a lot slower. This thing gets munched, and I've had some of the smallest fish eat something this size. So again, when you're getting skunked and you're getting, you know, just beaten down by the heat and the fish aren't biting, you throw something like this on just to downsize that presentation right there. The fish will bite no matter the size. So now let's talk about where you should be throwing this little finesse jig. So if your ponds or creek systems have any sort of structure, right? Shade trees, something that's fallen down, standing timber, anything that these bass can hug tight to, this is where you want to throw that. That's where you want to focus on, because when it's hot outside and that water is heating up, those fish, one, they want to be somewhere where it's a little cooler, if not down deep, and they want to be hugged tight to something, because with that sun out, they are, one, they don't want to get out in the open where predators can find them or prey can see them if they're out chasing. So they want to be somewhere where they can be in cover. This is where you want to throw this. You can hop this over structure, over logs, over rocks, stuff like that. This is a very, very versatile bait, which is why it's one of my favorites. And of course, who can beat a jig bite? You can't. Maybe you can, but for me, you can't. And that's why I love this. It's just a downsized, smaller presentation to a regular size jig, and I love catching fish on this. And that is why the finesse jig is my favorite technique to use. Alright, so before I hop over and start talking about the combos and the setups that I use to throw these finesse techniques, I do want to go over one more technique with you guys, which it's not one of my favorites, but it's also something that I do not use often because I don't really have that much luck with it, and I don't believe my ponds that I fish are deep enough to really kind of make this an appropriate technique. The only thing with this is I have to talk about it because it is probably one of the most used techniques when it comes to finesse fishing. And that, my friends, would be the drop shot. Now, if you don't know what a drop shot is, it is a finesse hammer. Unfortunately not for me, but you have a little hook, right? A little drop shot worm hook there with a finesse worm attached to the end of it. And it is good for fish that are suspended, that aren't all the way down at the bottom. Now, my ponds really aren't that deep, so for me to use something like this, my fish really aren't going to stay suspended in the hot heat that we have. The deepest that one of my ponds goes that I know for sure is just over 6 feet. Now, we get into the 90s here in Kentucky, if not close to 100, so they're going to be down as deep as they can. They're not really worried about staying suspended, but for some of those ponds that you guys fish, or creekways or waterways that you fish that are a little bit deeper, this is a perfect technique for that, where you can get some of those suspended fish that are not settling at the bottom. Now with the drop shot, you don't have to use a little worm like that. Some people do kind of a wacky style technique added to it, where they put like a Cinco on that type of hook, and it works as well. You can add pretty much anything. I've seen people use flukes, worms, little drag and drops like that by Googan. And for the purpose of this video, guys, we will be using the Googan drag and drop with a Wu Tungsten 1/4 ounce teardrop weight at the end, and hopefully we catch something. Like I said, I haven't had that much luck with it, but I also didn't want to leave it out because it is I mean, it's probably one of the most known finesse techniques out there, and you know, I've seen people pull up some really good fish on them, but for me, it hasn't worked. It does work, just not for me. So, but with that being said, guys, let's move over to our combos. Let's talk about what I use, and maybe this can help you decide what kind of setup or combo that you should be using for these finesse techniques. Alright guys, so when it comes to your rod and reel setup, when throwing these finesse techniques, I typically do not like to use anything heavier than a medium action rod. And the reasoning behind that is because you're going to be throwing lures that are a lot lighter in weight. So in turn, you're going to want to put that on a line that's a lot lighter than what you normally use. So for me, I won't use anything over 10-pound test when it comes to fluoro. Now on my spinning combos, I will use 20-pound braid, but I will use an 8-pound leader. You can get away with anything lower than that. Some people use 6-pound. I just use 20 to 8. It's just what works for me. But when it comes to your setups, this is what I use. Now when it comes to your rod and reel setup, let's talk about what works and what you can use. For me, I do have a spinning combo and I do have a bait casting combo that I do throw finesse techniques on. However, you can get away with throwing every one of these techniques you talked about today with just a spinning combo. You can throw your finesse jig on it, you can throw your shaky head, your Ned Rig, and even your drop shot. It works just fine. And typically for a spinning combo, I like to use a 7-foot medium action rod. This is a Googan Squad finesse rod here. And on these, for me, I will run 20-pound braid to an 8-pound test leader. Now, that leader is probably like 7 foot, just so I have some leeway. If I break off or snap, I can still change. But it works for me, it casts just fine. And I will normally throw some of my lighter, I guess the lighter of the techniques on here, like the Ned Rig and the drop shot. When it comes to my bait casting combo, I will throw the heavier techniques in there, like the jig or even the shaky head. It just seems to work a little bit better for me because I will work those typically like my Texas rigs, and kind of work them a little slower and stuff like that. For my preference, it just works a little bit better for me. It might not be the perfect technique for you, but again, overall, if you're just getting started in using some of these techniques, or you're not real comfortable using something so light on a bait casting combo, I promise you can get away with a spin combo. You can do 8-pound test line all the way through, 10-pound test line all the way through, whatever you feel like works for you. But my setup is a medium 7-foot finesse rod by Googan Squad with 20-pound test and an 8-pound leader. And lastly, the bait casting combo here, it is a 7-2 medium action Googan Squad reaction rod, and I run 10-pound fluoro on that. But like I said, I do run my heavier of the lures on it, so the jig and the shaky head, of course, just because I get a little bit further castability, and it just the sensitivity for me is it's just a lot better when it comes to fishing these things the way I do. So those are the two setups that I use, but again, you do not have to use both these setups. You can get away with just a spinning combo. So with that being said, I'm gonna go and wrap the video up here, but I really hope this video was enjoyable as well as informational and helpful to you all. And if you did find it to be that, please drop a like on it for me. It does help out the channel, and of course, I always appreciate it. And one more thing, if you guys have any feedback on this video that you want to leave me, please leave it down below in the comments. If you have any other tips or tricks in regards to finesse fishing, leave that down there as well. If you guys have any questions, do the same. Or if there's anyone down there that has questions that you guys can answer, help everybody out. Let's be, a good community here on this page. Let's get everyone together and help each other out, because I'm not a professional angler, right? I'm a YouTube fisherman. I make content, I guess it would be considered entertainment, but the knowledge I've learned over the years, I'm sharing with you guys, and I'd love to have some knowledge back. There's something that we can all learn from each other, and yeah, that's pretty much it on that. But again, I can also accept constructive criticism willingly. If you don't like this, you think it was trash, let me know. I mean, I ain't soft. I got thick skin. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. But what it'll do, it'll also help me build a better foundation when it comes to creating content and videos like this for you guys. So again, throw it all down in the comments. But really quick, if you are new to the channel and you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button for me down below. Turn the notification bell on as well so you know when I upload any brand new videos. And don't forget, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers by end of the year. So if you guys like the videos and share the content, we can flood more people in to see JuNa TV fishing videos on YouTube, and we can get that goal a lot faster. So that being said, guys, I love you all. You guys are the best. And until next time, I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace. Now, for the purpose of today's video, I will be fishing with a Googan squat. There we go. Oh my God.